So in the past, if you took a picture that you really wanted to publish, but there was that tiny bit of information that, you couldn't publish either for privacy or legal reasons or whatever, you would go into Photoshop and just blur or pixelate that part out. And boom, when you publish it on the internet, no one would have a single clue as to what the object possibly could have been. Those are the good days. With this dystopian AI slop world we live in now, not so much the case, because all of a sudden, under recent rumors, that tiny bit that you blurred or pixelated could all of a sudden be seen by the internet with some pretty publicly available tools. So, at the end of the day, that poses a very serious question. Is the era of blurring and pixelating as a method of redaction over in this world of AI, or are these rumors simply an orchestrated attempt of fear-mongering? Before we get started, I would like to just take a moment to talk about the models being used today. Now, for the purpose of today's video, we will be looking exclusively at Google Gemini. Yes, I'm aware of the existence of other models. However, for the purposes of time, because this was a very time-consuming experiment, not gonna lie, we'll be looking exclusively at Gemini. Now, if the video gets over 100,000 views and enough people demand in the comments, yes, I will go and try this with various other models. So yeah, back to the experiment.
So I took a very flattering picture of myself, and then I produced 25 images in Photoshop in which I blurred and pixelated my face to various degrees, with the results being shown right now. I then asked Google Gemini to unpixelate and unblur these images, and I used the prompt unpixelate and unblur the image. And then the result? Gemini's built-in protections stopped me in my tracks. Oddly enough, however, when I use the prompt, unpixelate this image, Gemini sometimes spat back an image with no problem. Now, I say, quote, sometimes, because it seemed like whether Gemini would spit back an image or not was truly arbitrary. Here is a graphic with more pixelation to the right and more blurry towards the bottom, and as you can see, there is not a very strong correlation between the blur or pixelation level and as to whether Gemini spat back an image or not. Now, I had wholly expected that the less pixelated and less blurred images would be spat back, but sometimes it just didn't, and other times, the pixelation and blurring were to extreme levels, it still spat back an image, or at least it attempted to. And ultimately, what wasn't shocking was the fact that Gemini was able to spit back the less censored images. What is surprising, however, is the fact that it went full creative mode and tried to hallucinate how I looked like. It says it doesn't reveal the identity of the subject whenever it did this, but if you compare the original and Gemini's creation, they look a little bit too similar to the point that there can be reasonable doubt into whether the person's identity was truly kept secret. Now, don't get me wrong, Gemini isn't a bad guesser, but the point still stands. Its censorship abilities are arbitrary, unreliable, and as we saw, sometimes it even escapes its coded restraints. So going back to the question at the beginning, is pixelation and blurring still an effective method of redaction and censorship?
I do believe that the era of blurring and pixelating as a method of censorship and redaction are over. And as we just saw, even though AI has coded restraints, things still fall through the cracks. And honestly, given how AI is not known for respecting your privacy, I'm expecting no less of this. So going forward, I think what's gonna happen is one of two things. The first situation that's gonna happen if the information can afford to be released. In this case, what people are gonna do is they're just gonna blacken the portion of the image that they otherwise would have pixelated or blurred. And the issue with this is certain image formats track every single change in an image, and possibly there are programs out there that could probably recover, older editions of the file, which are unredacted. Now, this leads to situation number 2, and that is just the absence of the publication in the first place. This is mostly going to be the case amongst governments and corporations with trade secrets. So this whole method draws on the first great instinct of think before you speak. For those of you who don't know this slogan, it basically means to think if it is true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind before you say, in this case, publish it. And naturally, if you're not comfortable with the information getting, possibly reverse redacted, I think that you should just not have it published in the first place. Unless, for some reason, the information is published against your will, which is very much a real possibility in this world. So yeah, in short, pixelation and blurring should be going out the window fairly soon. Either black it out or don't publish it if you really care about your privacy. But yeah, that kind of wraps up today's video of technology being miserable in this AI dystopian world. So hope you guys are going to enjoy the other parts of your day that aren't full of this AI bullcrap. And likewise, I'll see y'all next time.